General Motors has just told its suppliers it wants to increase its production of EVs by a factor of 6 times. That is seriously impressive. Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Electric Viking. My name is Sam Evans, and I'm coming to you here from Melbourne, Australia. Welcome to the channel, you new subscribers. Great to have you. Welcome back to everyone else. So General Motors, yep, they've said some interesting things. Well, at least their CEO, Mary Barra, has anyway over the last 6 months. But I do think that they have the right intentions. And as many of you would know, I actually bought some of General Motors stock just last week, in fact, which I can't believe I did it. To be honest, I'm still a little bit surprised. But the reality is, it's such good value. Seriously, it's so depressed right now because of the incredibly poor electric car sales it had in the fourth quarter of 2021. 26 electric cars were delivered that month. Insane. Yep, I know. It's hard to fathom how that could happen from the world's leading electric vehicle manufacturer. but in all seriousness, I do think GM are serious. They've got 4 battery factories that will be coming online over the next few years. That's probably about 140 gigawatt hours of battery supply. It's a lot more than some of their competition. Some of their competition will sizzle and fry in the sun, like Toyota, Honda, Mitsubishi, probably most Japanese automakers, to be honest. None of them are really taking electrification seriously. Just have a look at electric car sales in Japan. They're minuscule. Because why? Those automakers in Japan, the Japanese pretty much only buy, their own local car manufacturers, aren't making electric cars. Now, although Japan is an island, it can't stay that way forever. Anyway, getting back to General Motors. General Motors told its suppliers that it plans to increase the production of its electric trucks and the Cadillac Lyriq SUV by more than 6 times, in an attempt to keep pace with industry leaders. This is fantastic. I love hearing this kind of news. Personally, I want General Motors to say, you know what, Aussies, we're going to send the Silverado EV pickup truck to Australia. You know how many they'd sell here? Literally, it would be so popular here in this country. We love pickup trucks exactly like you Americans do. So please, GM, please send some our way. I know, I'm pleading on deaf ears here because obviously they've got over 100,000 pre-orders already for the Silverado EV for good reason. It's a very impressive pickup truck. The specifications are impressive. The vehicle itself is better than I expected, genuinely better. As the electric automotive market continues to become more competitive and has been dominated by smaller EV-only companies, Legacy Auto are ramping production, or at least trying, and flexing their capacities in an effort to catch up. Ford recently announced it would expand production of the Mustang Mach-E and the F-150 Lightning, aiming to produce 600,000 electric units in just 22 months, or the next 22 months. They're saying they're going to do this. And then the following day, they paused production and shut down their factory, thanks to apparently parts issues or chip supply issues or there's some excuse. There's always some excuse. GM has excuses. Ford has excuses. They all have excuses. Toyota has excuses. Lots of excuses coming from Legacy Auto. But that said, I do like what GM is telling its suppliers, telling them more than 6 times. That's a big figure. GM is now taking the same approach as Ford, as a new report from Reuters shows that the automaker is planning to increase production rates of the GMC Hummer EV from the edition 1. No, in all seriousness, they actually delivered 1 of them in December and they celebrated that like it was a success. But okay, they're planning to increase production, so that's good. Hopefully it's not to 2, hopefully it's to 20,000 or more. And of the Chevrolet Silverado EV and Cadillac Lyriq significantly. Production figures could reach a total of 46,000 units in 2022. That's an over 6 times increase from original figures of 7,000 this year. So basically GM is doing what Ford did last year. Ford revised its production numbers on 3 separate occasions to double and then double again of the F-150 electric pickup truck because they realized the enormous amount of demand they had for that vehicle. And obviously GM has done the same. The Hummer EV and the Silverado EV will have their production capacities increased from 3,800 vehicles in 2022 to 21,000. Now, to be frank, the fact that they were originally going to produce only 3,800 of these in 2022, it's hard to fathom. I mean, really? 3,800? Wow. Anyway, 21,000 is a lot better. It's a good start. The increase in production matches several points GM CEO Mary Barra made last week during the company's quarterly earnings call, where she indicated that the company would aim to deliver 400,000 electric cars by the end of 2023. So it's good to see these numbers, 400,000 by the end of 2023 for GM, 600,000 by the end of 2023 for Ford. It's good to see, it's good to hear these numbers, but I want to see some evidence of this. I want to see some sales figures. I want to see some production numbers. Barra mentioned GM's recent Michigan investment, which will give the company production capacity of over 1 million units annually in North America by the end of 2025. During the earnings call, Barra mentioned that the reservations for each of the aforementioned vehicles had reached impressive levels. The Hummer EV has 60,000 reservations currently, which is pretty insane for a niche vehicle. I mean, it's massive. It's a behemoth. It's absolutely enormous. It's literally more than about twice the size of, say, a Ford Ranger. Unbelievably big. So I'm impressed that they've got 60,000 reservations for that vehicle, especially seeing as it's not cheap. While the Silverado EV has reached more than 110,000 pre-orders since being unveiled last month. So in other words, in the space of 4 weeks, they've got 110,000 pre-orders. That shows you just how much demand there is for electric pickup trucks. Imagine if they were producing these things en masse right now. I reckon they'd have at least double that number of pre-orders. I honestly think by the end of this year, GM will probably have closer to 250,000 pre-orders for the Silverado EV. Additionally, the Cadillac Lyriq has strong demand, Barra said, indicating that customer interest in the Cadillac Lyriq is growing so quickly that we will forego a new round of reservations and begin taking customer orders soon after the debut edition launches in March. I don't know how many they're actually making. No one knows how many Cadillac Lyriqs they're making for the debut edition, but we know it did sell out in about 11 minutes. So hopefully it's a lot more than one. Hopefully they're making lots of them. Lyriq production is planned to increase to 25,000 units in 2022, a drastic increase from the 3,200 planned production vehicles. So going from 3,200 to 25,000, that's a massive increase. And that's fantastic. I'm stoked to hear that. Cadillac Lyriq, honestly, just have a look at it. It looks really good. It looks, honestly, I would like one. There's a lot of EVs I would like, as you guys know. I have EV envy, EV lust, but legitimately, the Lyriq is a very cool looking car. One of the coolest looking General Motors electric vehicles that I've ever seen, or General Motors vehicles, period, that I've ever seen. Now, technically, 26 times 6 equals only 156. So in other words, GM produced 26 or delivered 26 EVs in the fourth quarter of 2021. If they times that by 6, then that means they'll deliver 156, hopefully in the first quarter of 2022. But in all seriousness, jokes aside, GM's goals here are good. They're looking in the right direction. They're not doing what Toyota is doing. They're not rubbishing EVs anymore. They're not saying EVs are bad for the planet. They're not saying that. They're not trying to convince school children like Toyota is that EVs are bad. Legitimately, I think GM is in the right place here. And I mean, honestly, they're obviously a few years behind where they could have been, and it would have been good to see them in. But now they're trying to pivot. And as you're going to see over the next couple of years, it's very hard to pivot a company. Whether or not they actually achieve their goal of 1 million annual run rate by the end of 2025, it's yet to be seen. It's going to be difficult to do. But this shows you that it's not easy for a company like Toyota to do something like this. And clearly Toyota are nowhere near as far in their electrification plans as GM are. The other good thing about this is it does set an example to other manufacturers. GM is saying, you know what, we're making our own batteries. We're making factories to build these vehicles. We're going to have 4 of our own battery plants. This sets the example for other legacy autos to say, this is what you need to do to compete with us. Now, to give a fair comparison here, GM are saying they plan on beating Tesla by 2025 or maybe 2026 to give them a bit of leniency here. But Tesla did deliver 936,000 vehicles last year, EVs, in 2021. That's 18,000 a week on average. If GM can ramp up to 6 times of a total of 46,000 EVs in 2022, that would be 2.5 weeks of Tesla's output. 2.5 weeks of Tesla's annual output, but that's based on last year, not this year. This year, I expect Tesla to probably deliver about 1.7, 1.8 million electric vehicles. So it would be less than, about a week and a half of Tesla's annual production. The reality is at this point, it's not really worth comparing against Tesla because GM are not catching up to Tesla at all this decade. It's not going to happen. Whether or not you're a fan of GM or not, it doesn't really make any difference. Maths is maths. So logic is logic. It's not going to happen. But we don't need to compare them against GM. What we should compare them against is other legacy auto manufacturers like Toyota, like Ford, like Volkswagen. And yes, they're a long way behind if you compare them to Volkswagen and Tesla. But if you compare them to Toyota, they're actually ahead. And remember, if you're running away from a bear, just make sure you're not the person at the back. Maybe that's all GM needs to do to survive in this decade. I don't know. Let me know what you think, though, in the comment section below. Do you think GM will survive this decade? Have a great day, and I'll see you again on the next video. Bye-bye.